What's up, everybody? Mountain Mainstream Sports has finally returned after a long wait. Peyton and I have had some different things come up in our lives here lately, and it's kind of slowed the podcast down a little bit, but we're back to work and hopefully ready to get some more episodes out. We have a new game plan in place. I'm going to let Peyton talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so first off, like Andrew said, we're glad to be back. I feel like we're coming back at a good time with football season starting up, college football, high school football, and of course the NFL. So some of the things we're going to try to talk about later today will probably be some of that. But the main thing we wanted to talk about was kind of how we're going to be planning to do things moving forward. That way we can stay a little more consistent and get more content out to you guys. So I think the big thing we want to do is more weekly episodes just to get more episodes out in a month. So we're going to try to release at least one episode every week. We're shooting for Wednesday. Don't hold us to anything though. Like Andrew mentioned, we kind of have a busy schedule, so we're just trying to shoot for, once a week. But Wednesday feels like a good day for us to get something out before high school football starts on Friday and before Thursday night football. Try to get everything in for the week ahead. And the reason we're wanting to do that is because we're planning on doing shorter videos. We're going to try to stick to around 10 to 15-minute videos weekly with one kind of longer episode, kind of like we did before, around 45 minutes or an hour. So, one of those episodes a month. And then, these weekly bites where we can, just get more weekly updates talking about the prior weeks, like big events, and then what to look forward to in the next week when it comes to local and national sports. And so that's kind of our game plan. Hopefully you guys like that. And we're also planning on like chopping it up. That way we have separate clips. That way you can watch what, really interests you. Like if we do an interview in the future and let's say you just want to watch the interview, we're going to have that clip separate. We plan on posting that the day after just to try to encourage people to watch the longer podcasts. But, we understand people have issues sitting down and watching a full podcast. So we're going to try to post the short clips as well, just to try to maximize, our viewership and what we're doing with the page.
Yeah, and I think having smaller clips throughout the month and then maybe one big episode suits more people. Like you just said, not everybody can sit down and watch a hour episode. If we have these little 20 to 30 minute, just kind of shorter pod episodes, I think it suits a larger audience and kind of helps us stay on track and be more consistent as far as, say, if we miss a couple here and there, at least we're putting out something monthly. So
Right.
hopefully we can stick to that. And before this episode started, like I said, we're just jumping right back into it. Uh, in the past, we've done a lot of preparation before episodes. Today, we're going to kind of be more relaxed, and Peyton's kind of going to work off me. I have some ideas that I've put out here. One thing I want to start with is Tug Valley High School football. That's Peyton and I both went there in the past, and they're at the time of this recording, they just wrapped up week 2 against Sherman. First, let's start with the Tug and Mingo game. I was in attendance. Very fun game to watch. It was a shootout. And, I support, as long as Mingo Central is not playing Tug Valley, I support those kids as well. I want to see them do well. But, man, you got to think a lot of new faces for Mingo Central, a lot of returners for Tug Valley. It was a barn burner. It's fun to watch. I wish Tug Valley could have pulled it out in the end, but, a lot of star performers in that game. One kid I really liked on Mingo's team was, I think his name was Jace Coleman. They call him Bam. I mean, he ran all over Tug Valley, and he had a great game.
Yeah, and like you said, that game kind of went down to the very last possession almost, I feel like, and you just hate to see Tug Valley lose such a close one, especially with the game kind of being grasped there at the end. But I think, that would have been a matchup I want to see again later on in the season. I wish they played again later in the season just to see, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of improvements on both sides, and I feel like Tug Valley's going to have a few breakout season like players this season that if they were to match up again, it would be, a different outcome maybe.
Yeah, it would be cool to see again, but unfortunately, football don't always give us that luxury. I will say a kid for Tug Valley that you're talking about is going to keep getting better and better. Derek Jewell probably played the best game I've ever seen him play. I seen him at school a couple days later, and I told him that. And and I liked what Derek told me when I seen him in office. I told him that he's like, there's more to come. And I didn't get to go to the Sherman game. I'm sure he had a good game there too. But let's talk about, like we said, came down to it literally came down to the last play. Tug Valley, the last play they had, they could have won on that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, did not. But let's talk about Bryson Eli. I think he really, I'll be honest with you, I think he was just pissed off after that loss.
Yeah, I agree.
Comes in against Sherman, 6 touchdowns, 5 rushing, 1 receiving touchdown. I mean, if Bryson Eli don't find himself playing college football somewhere next year, there's something wrong because that kid
Yeah, he's
absolute beast.
yeah, he's making a case for the best, best back in the state, really. I mean, he's been dominant in the first 2 games, but especially that game against Sherman. I think the consensus is everybody's excited to see what he's going to do. Something I wanted to touch on a little bit, and I guess I'll kind of bring it up now is, I personally, for me, it's a long drive every Friday to go down there. I appreciate the new signing to D&D Sports, getting to watch Tug Valley's live streamed. I know, I think I'm like everybody else. I encourage everybody to get out when they can. But for me personally, like, that's helped a lot in just being able to keep up with everything and watch them. And I watched a lot of that game as it happened live, and man, like, he was unstoppable.
Yeah, that the D&D contract was long overdue. I'm glad they finally got that done. There were some complications in the past that I thought were pretty just I mean, it was just stupid really. But anyway, the bright side is they're going to be there now. I think they're going to cover every football game, every home basketball game. That helps a lot of people out, man. I mean, there's a lot of older folk that can't get out to these games. I say in a couple posts like, don't use this as an excuse to be lazy. To me, Tug Valley has one of the best fan bases in the state. I don't think you're going to see just because D&D's broadcasting every game, you're going to see a drop in attendance. I mean, people use that when they can't make it. People that work out of town, older people that can't make it out to every game. So it's just all, and then on top of that, these kids like to go back and watch their games, hear what the commentators have to say. I've seen kids, take clips from streaming to use on their highlights. I mean, there's a lot more pros than there is cons, if there is any cons anyway. So
Yeah, and D&D covered Tug Valley a lot in the past, and it's never been any issues with, people not showing up. Like you said, they have the best fan base in the area, especially in the region. There's no question about that. So I think there should be no issues with people coming out just because they're streaming on D&D. I really think it only helps those that, have difficulty seeing them, and I appreciate it personally. It lets me, catch them when I'm coming out of the hospital or whatever I'm doing in Huntington, be able to support my team without, physically being there, because a lot of times my schedule's crammed here. And so I just appreciate being able to know for a fact now, like, the contract set in place. Like, I'm always going to be able to see my Panthers as long as this deal's in place.
And just to kind of wrap this segment up, Tug Valley starting off the season 1-1. They look to face Logan this coming week. Should be a good game. They get them at home this year. I'm excited to see that one. Key performance for Tug Valley so far. Preston May still playing quarterback. He's looked good so far. Cameron Sloan is a name that highly undervalued, underrated wide receiver. I think it's like every time you watch Cam, he can get open. Don't matter what he's doing, he's getting open. But like I said, Derek Jewell, I thought played well the other day. And then you got Eli in the backfield. That's just a monster. So, I look forward to continue watching them. To expand on Mingo Central a little bit, they have the new quarterback, Jameer Knuckles from Pike Central. He looked good in the game. I got to watch him. Like I said, Jace Van Coleman was a star performer. Aiden Burke's a name you always got to mention when you're talking about Mingo Central. And so their week 2 game was against West Side. They beat them. I can't remember the final score on that one, but that's 2-0 start to your season. That's always good. I look for Dave Jones to continue kind of riding that out, and we'll see how the Miners do. All right, so moving on to our next topic, and at the time of this recording, this is Sunday. We're past week 2 of high school football. Today was the first NFL Sunday for week 1.
Mhm.
Some games I got to catch today. Steelers and Jets was a barn burner. Very fun to watch. Aaron Rodgers back in MetLife Stadium. That was awesome. Buccaneers, Falcons came down to the wire. For
Yeah.
for betting purposes for myself, I was glad to see the Buccaneers pulled out. Was there any games that kind of stood? I know you was watching the Broncos game earlier. Any
Yeah.
games or players that stood out to you in the NFL?
So I was on Red Zone all day today. That's something that I kind of enjoy on Sunday, especially. So I got to see a little bit of every game. The big standout performance for me today was Egbuka, the wide receiver for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, he's a
He looked unreal, stud, wide receiver one. Everything that everybody was saying about him came to be true. I think I liked what I saw out of him and Baker Mayfield early. That last catch he had over the top to kind of give them the lead was really tough. And, that game had every chance in the world to go to OT, and Young Ho Koo just missed the easy one there at the end.
yeah.
He shanked that hard. And if you watch, they iced him, but before they iced him, he got the kickoff, and he missed it too. So he really missed two in a row, I feel like, and so it just wasn't meant to be for them. Another game that stood out for me was actually the Friday night game between the Chiefs and the Chargers.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a little bit of a longer season for the Chiefs, especially starting out. You lose Xavier Worthy early in that game, just a hit by Travis Kelce. It looked like shoulder dislocation. And then the Chargers come out there and showed what they were about. And I've always had high praise for Justin Herbert. I feel like he's got all the talent in the world to be one of those elite quarterbacks and just never seems to put it together. Quinston Johnson, I believe he's a third-year wide receiver. There's been a lot of questions about him. I believe they took him in the first round 3 years ago, and he just hasn't proved himself. And then he comes out and has a 2-touchdown performance. So I liked what I saw out of the Chargers. Everybody's looking for their rookie running back, Omarion Hampton. Kind of had a slower game, but I think that's to be expected with a lot of the rookies. And I'm really interested. That's my number one division to watch is the AFC West, not just because I'm a Broncos fan, but I think you've got four interesting teams. The Raiders with Ginty and Brock Bowers, and they just added Geno Smith, who had an incredible performance today, threw up for over 300 yards. And then you've got the Chargers, who I already talked about. The Chiefs seem to be the one team that's taken a step back. I feel like Denver's improved a lot. And for the first time in a long time, you have three teams starting 1-0 and the Chiefs starting 0-1. So I think that's something to kind of look out for these first couple weeks of the season, especially with the Rashee Rice suspension and Xavier Worthy being out. And, they're going to have to rely on Kelce more. And I think there's a lot of controversy there.
Yeah. For fantasy team purposes, I hope Kelce begins. He didn't have a bad game Friday.
No, he had a good game. He had a touchdown.
Yeah, I hope he continues to be the kind of the Travis Kelce of old and not Travis Swift like everybody's predicting here. But, to touch up on a couple more NFL games for myself, sadly, my Patriots lost today. But like you said, Geno, Ginty, they both look good for the Raiders. Trying to think of
I thought the Patriots looked good. They had their rookie running back, his name Henderson, right? He looked good. I think he just needs more reps, and I thought Drake May looked pretty good. I think they're going to be one of those teams that improves throughout the year. I was really looking for them to get the ball to Diggs more, and it just didn't seem to happen. He was kind of targeting Demario Douglas more than he was Diggs, it seemed to me like.
Henderson's out of Ohio State, and as I hate to admit it, anybody coming out of Ohio State anymore is destined, it seems, to be a decent NFL player. And they just keep, to me, Ohio State's the Kentucky basketball. The Ohio State to the NFL is what Kentucky basketball is to the NBA, is how I feel about it in recent years.
I would agree with that. Just look at what Marvin Harrison Jr. finally did today. I think this might be his breakout year as well. The Cardinals, they look pretty good.
Yep. And like I said, Steelers, Jets, that was fun to watch. I think Rodgers, that was a nice victory for him, just for himself to go into MetLife and win a game. But all in all, pretty good NFL Sunday. I know the Bills and Ravens are either just started or about to start. So I'm sure when we hop off this, we'll tune in for that.
Yeah, I'll put the final score here just because, but I think we're both going to hop off here and definitely tune into that. I think that's going to be another barn burner classic, and I'm excited to see what Derrick Henry does this year for sure. He's one of my key players I always kind of keep track of just because he's probably my favorite running back in the league right now. That's subject to change depending on how Denver Broncos rookie R.J. Harvey looks for the rest of the season. I liked what I saw from him today when he got his opportunities. He had a 50-yard run late in the third quarter. That Denver seemed to rely on J.K. Dobbins more, which is fine. He's a more solidified running back veteran, but I like the explosiveness that R.J. Harvey did with the looks he had. So that'll be something to that I'm keeping an eye out for. Another pickup for Denver was Evan Ingram. He went out with an injury. Not sure what happened there, but hopefully he's okay because he was a big pickup for the Sean Payton offense. And they were playing against the Titans, and I thought Cam Ward looked pretty good. I think the stats are pretty deceiving because a lot of his passes were on target, and he's going to have a pretty bad percentage, but his wide receivers were really selling him, I feel like. What do you think?
And at the end of that game, I mean, we was watching it together. He was throwing dots, and they just could not catch a ball. But it's part of the game. Sometimes you kind of you go back to the drawing board and come out next week and hope for better. But like we said, this is kind of our well, it ain't kind of. This is our first episode back, and this is going to be a shorter episode. You know, moving on from NFL, how we feel about this week one. Lastly, which we're still in the NFL category here, we're going to talk about fantasy teams, our favorite players, who we like. I said earlier we was going to analyze each other's, but I'm just going to throw out today my favorite fantasy guys that I had playing. Baker Mayfield went off. I had Bucky Irvin, who ended up catching a touchdown pass. Alvin Kamara done good. But I'll be honest with you, when I look at my fantasy lineup right here, Baker had the most points for me, obviously, at quarterback. CeeDee Lamb done well for me on Thursday, even though he dropped I don't know how many freaking balls at the end of that game, 2 or 3. But I just had a bunch of guys that kind of solid, and still have a couple. Have Aaron Jones to play tomorrow and Minnesota defense, but I've pretty much locked up my week one victory, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna start the year 0-1, which is fine. I'm hoping to stay around 500 just because I have Rashee Rice waiting when he gets out of that suspension week 7, and he's gonna really help my offense. I took a lot of rookies. I was picking in the 8 slot out of 12 this year, and I just feel like that's a tough place to pick just because you're not getting any of the top 7, and then when it comes back around to you, it's pick 5 or 6. A lot of deep players. I think my first 2 picks were Malik Neighbors, who I'm worried about just because of Russell Wilson. I don't know why you would think as a Broncos fan and everything that happened with the Steelers last year, I would have known better than to pick Russell Wilson's number 1 receiver, but I'm hoping he can turn things around. Actually, I'm kind of hoping to see some Jackson Dart play, maybe get some burn for him and see what he can do for Malik Neighbors. And then my number 2 pick in the draft was Drake London. I kind of fell for the Drake London hype this year, and I thought the Falcons looked good. I think Michael Penix Jr. is definitely an upgrade from what we've seen. Drake London went down with an injury to his knee. I don't think reports have said what happened to his knee. Hopefully it's nothing serious and he can get back out there. But outside of that, I had Kamara as well. Kamara had a decent game. Really, my star player for my fantasy team this year is going to be Jaden Daniels, and I think he has the potential to carry me every week. He had a pretty solid game. I feel like this week one, just looking around my fantasy league, all 12 teams' points totals were projected a lot higher than they actually were. I think one of the broadcasts I was watching today brought up a good point that, the first couple weeks, the defenses are caught up to speed, week 1, week 2, and the offense is lagging a little bit behind. So hopefully these week 1 jitters kind of go away and I can get some more production out of some of my guys.
Yeah, I think the further the season goes on, you kind of see offenses start to open up, especially guys that are or teams that are air raid. And one part you mentioned though, Michael Penix Jr. I'm real big into sports cards. I talk about it all the time, post about it. His cards here lately have been just going, higher and higher and higher. And I'll never, I'm more of an NBA guy myself. I love the NFL, but sometimes there's a guy that I probably should know more about and I don't. And that was him. And after watching him play today, I can see why his card value and just overall stock keeps going up. That guy's a dog.
I mean, they have all the talent in the world if you look at their roster. People like to meme Kyle Pitts, and I think I'm one of the first people to meme Kyle Pitts, but he's got talent. He's got talent, but and then of course they got Bijan Robinson, who I'm looking for him to take another step forward this year.
Yeah,
Yeah, he had a really good day. And then Drake London should be, that bona fide wide receiver one. I was kind of buying stocks in on him, and hopefully he does turn out to be that wide receiver one that everybody's predicting. Only time will tell, especially with him being injured.
Other team that just talking about, just to kind of wrap up our NFL talk here, the Steelers had so many new weapons that I remember back when they signed them, but it just kind of, it's kind of one of those things week one, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot they got him. Jonnu Smith, DK Metcalf, obviously Rodgers, still got Warren in the backfield. I mean, they have
Micah Parsons. No, wait, that's the Packers.
You're
No,
leaving,
Jalen Ramsey was who I was thinking of.
Yeah, you're leaving that in the pod.
I'm not leaving that in the pod.
But yeah,
I was thinking of Jalen Ramsey. Dude, Jalen Ramsey had the hit of the game.
He did have the hit of the game. That's what I was about to talk. Could have, and the Jets, first of all, the drive would have stayed alive. It would have been first down, and he cleaned Garrett Wilson's clock. I mean, that was probably the best hit I've seen all day.
And Garrett Wilson had a good game today.
He did. And that's two more guys. That's two more guys. Everybody said don't draft Breece Hall.
Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson looked really good this year. I think Justin Fields really fits their offensive scheme. Like, I think that's going to be a scary team when you get later into the season.
The guy can finally throw a ball. It seems like he looked good today. The Jets overall are kind of a team to look out for too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they've got talent on both sides of the ball, and I think just having a mobile quarterback opens up so much for Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen got in there once today, I think.
He did.
So I think they're another team that kind of, even though they lost in week one, everybody was touting the Steelers defense, and you kind of had a dogfight there, just aerating it out between both teams.
Yeah, a lot of good games today, a lot of good players. Hopefully we're in for a good NFL season, but all in all, I'm just glad football's finally back. The weather today was immaculate. It was like 68 degrees. We'll take that every day of the week.
Yep.
And we all know with football season comes basketball season, and that's going to be a beautiful thing. All right. So, like we said, this is planned to be a shorter podcast. And this is something else I told Peyton earlier. When we first started this, we was a lot of preparation, a lot of kind of stress ourselves out. This go around, I'm hoping to be kind of more relaxed and just kind of doing this because we started this because we both love sports. We love the talk. We talk to each other multiple times a week anyway, and this is something for not only us to kind of catch up and talk sports, but kind of give content for people to watch and maybe somebody get some entertainment or enjoyment out of it. But, we're kind of just going to have some topics ready, but then kind of, feed off that as they come. So that being said, we appreciate everybody's support. Hopefully we can get the consistency going back, and until next time.